Good afternoon everyone and welcome to the British Cheese Weekender. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Sarah Peterson, otherwise known as Sarah Queen of Cheese, which was a title given to me by my work colleagues, the long-suffering work colleagues that have to put up with my incessant cheese chat. Basically, I'm a chef by trade. I work for CH&Co. And also I'm a hobby cheesemaker, so I've been making cheese for about 2 years now, and I've also over the last year or so I've done my Academy of Cheese course, so I'm a level 1 associate now, which has helped me no end. It's really encouraged my love of cheese, and also just given me a really good basis of knowledge, which has enabled me to do some cheesemonger training at Paxton and Whitfield, which was absolutely brilliant just before Christmas. So today we are going to do, from start to finish, halloumi making. So I started making halloumi probably about 2 years ago. I went for a course at High Wheel Dairy in West Sussex. And that's where I first got to grips with how to use rennet, how to handle the curds, and also make halloumi. So today we are going to go, I've got 2 different pans on the go. I've got my first pan, which I'm going to show you how we're going to cut the curds and how we're going to stir the curds. And then I've got another pan just behind at the moment, which is poaching some curds that I've basically prepared earlier. So we're going to hopefully, fingers crossed, do a bit of a Blue Peter moment and go through each step, and then it's all going to come together beautifully, and you can sort of see each stage. I'm really hoping this goes all right. So yeah, so this is the end product that we want to get to, and this is the cheese that I made as a preparation last week. So here goes. So earlier on today, I basically collected my milk. I buy my cow's milk from a raw milk farmer in Hampshire, lovely Fox's Fridge, Katie and Will. They've been supplying me now for about 2 years. The milk's absolutely incredible at the moment. It's spring milk, so the yield that we get from the cheese is just incredible. So what I've done earlier on, I've heated this milk up to 34 degrees. I've added my starter cultures, which I will explain in a minute. And I've added rennet as well, which coagulates and turns the raw milk into curds. So I'm going to show you this little bit. I'm just going to also warn you that both Tom and I, who's my better half, have been tackling with messing around with the technology, and it's quite difficult to get it all right. But I'm just hoping that it's not buffering and you can see it all. So we have got the set curds, so it's got a nice little wiggle to it, and I'm just going to check it. So I'm going to put and then pinch, and then I should have a nice break, and that means the curds are ready and we're going to start to cut. So I'm going to get my big palette knife, and we want to do 2 centimetre cuts. Okay, and then we're going to go on the diagonal. So we've cut the curds, and the next step is I'm going to use a whisk, and I'm just going to break down the columns of curd, and I'm just, each little square, I'm just pushing it through. And the reason why we cut the curds and the reason why we stir the curds differs for different cheeses. So if you're making a soft cheese, which most recently I've been focusing on, lactic lactic goat cheeses, which requires a nice soft set, so I don't cut the curds, I scoop the curds. And for example, if you're making a cheddar, then you really want to stir your curds and basically get the curds as small as possible. And with the halloumi, because we want a lot of the whey to be expelled, the next step, you don't have to be shy with, you can get your arm in there and give it a really, really good stir, so that's what we're going to start doing now. Most important thing, home cheese making. I'll let you into a little tip as well. Cleanliness is very, very important, especially when you're dealing with raw milk. And when I say raw milk, I mean it's unpasteurised. So in the shops and the supermarkets, we have on our shelves pasteurised milk, and it's also been homogenised as well, which basically means that the fat particles have been broken up and agitated so much that you don't get that old school sort of separation of the milk and the cream. It's just one, one emulsified milk basically. It's even. Whereas raw milk, it hasn't gone through the heat treatment, and this milk hasn't been homogenised either. If you're doing home cheese making and you cannot find a local raw milk farm, and after this video basically finishes and it airs, I will be putting some more information on the YouTube page about where you can find raw milk farm. But I'm just going to go with that. So if you can't get raw milk, Waitrose sell Dutchy milk, and that is a full fat. It is pasteurised, but it's not homogenised, which will basically give you a better cheese. Right, so I'm going to clean my hands because cleanliness is really, really important when you're making cheese. Everything that I use in the kitchen I sterilise, and I use Milton in a great huge food grade bucket. And hand washing, I know it's the hot topic at the moment with the whole COVID crisis, but yes, very important with home cheese making, so I'll be back. Right. So I'm going to backtrack ever so slightly. So I talked about I've talked about the milk, and this being raw milk, and then I talked about starter cultures. So I started using starter cultures after I went for a course with Wild's Cheese in Tottenham. So I learned how to make halloumi at Highfield, and then I went to Wild's Cheese. And both Phil and Keith were absolutely fantastic. Had a really, really fun day, and it also gave me the confidence to go for it and start buying the cultures and start using them. So starter cultures are, this is a starter culture. So they smell quite yogurty, and they basically go straight into the milk after you've heated it, and then they dissolve. And the reason why cheesemakers use starter cultures is to give, to basically help the cheese to acidify. So milk will naturally acidify over time, but for a safe cheese we need the milk to acidify quite quickly. And also with most starter cultures as well, it's going to give the cheese its characteristics. So, you know, it's very hard to describe. I'm still learning about starter cultures. You know, it is a topic that I really need to learn, especially if I want to take my cheese making further. But basically, cheesemakers use the starter cultures to make their cheese safe, but also to give the characteristics. So the bloom that you get on a soft cheese, that will be from a certain mould. And then you'll have different bacteria, so like a sticky washed rind, that's often that orangey sort of rosy sort of colour, and that comes from a different bacteria. And then I talked about rennet as well, so I'll show you rennet now. So this is rennet, and I use animal rennet, which is more commonly known as traditional rennet. In this country, we have a choice between the animal and the vegetarian rennet. So vegetarian rennet is basically like an enzyme, a synthesised enzyme, whereas animal rennet is the enzyme taken from a calf's fourth stomach, and that basically coagulates the milk when it's feeding, and then it does the same thing for cheese making. So I'm just stirring the curds at the moment, and they're starting to break up. And whereas before I showed you, I'm just going to show you this now, I showed you a whole pan of set curd, and now it's starting to break up. So we've got some big bits, it's quite jelly-like, and then the smaller pieces, I'll try and bring one up from the bottom, are starting to set, so they're starting to get a little bit harder. And as the time goes on and the temperature builds, because we need to get this curd up to 40 degrees. It should take about 30 minutes, but I am going to speed it up a little bit, just because I'm very aware that we've only got 30 minutes together. So so which other question as well? Keep asking questions. So Tom's just said, I've had a question about the yield. So in this pan, I have put 11.4 litres, and typically I should get over a kilo worth of cheese. And because of the spring milk at the moment, I'm getting a higher yield, so it's quite generous at the moment. That's why cheesemakers love spring milk. I think another question, could you use a spoon to stir? Yes, you could. The way that I was taught was to get my arm in, to wash my arm and get in there. And it's quite a nice way of actually feeling the curds and how they're changing. Because the more and more you get to learn about your cheese and the curd and how it's changing, the more and more, I don't know, it just infuses me even more, I think. I love it. I love going from a raw ingredient. I love going to the farm, I love collecting the milk, I love seeing the cows, I love talking to the farmers, and then bringing it home, processing it, and then having something that I can share with, friends, family, work colleagues. That's what cheese means for me, basically, in cheese making. So I'm kind of waving like the Queen. I'm just going like this, very, very gently. Just sort of agitating the curds. I'm not sort of going in and really being rough with it. For the harder cheeses, yes, you can be quite vicious with it. I'm just going to switch it up a little bit more. So we've cut the curds. I'm stirring the curds. But I just want to, I think, probably talk about home cheese making. So I used Paul Thomas's book. I went for a course with Paul last March. Which was completely invaluable for me. Asked him loads and loads of questions, had loads of questions answered. I'd had a few problems with different cheeses that I was making, and the texture was coming out wrong, and it was just fantastic to spend time with Mr. Thomas and just ask him everything that I needed to know, and for him to give me all the answers. And I took away a lot, so I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that this June's course won't be cancelled, because I'm booked on for another a professional course. But I think the main reason why we're here today and for the whole weekend, and I was approached by Academy of Cheese to basically do this little slot, because I know that they know how excited and enthusiastic I get about cheese. But this is all about supporting British cheesemakers. So we do have a selection of halloumi makers. So halloumi originated from is a Cypriot product. It's big business over there. Traditionally it's made with goat and sheep's milk, and we've got at least 4 British halloumi makers in this country. So we've got Yorkshire Dharma, Lewis of London, High Weald, and then we've got Cupros in North London. And I would say, go out there and try the British cheeses and see the difference. You know, the British public are massive consumers of halloumi. You know, we are kind of behind the Cypriots in the amount that we consume. And it's and it's become even more popular over the years because of its versatility. It's got a mild, likeable flavour. You know, you can cook with it, and it's quite unique as well because of the sweetiness. But the reason I think, I would definitely urge people to go on a cheese making course if you want to make cheese at home, because one, you get to see the professionals in action, and also get all the tips and hints and bits and pieces from them. But also, it's very important to sort of be aware of what you're doing from a safety point of view as well. And then I would say also the British Cheese Weekender was set up by Academy of Cheese and Specialist Cheesemakers Association, which I'm now a member of, and also Guild of Fine Food. So Academy of Cheese, fantastic way of learning about cheese. I spent a day with Paxton and Whitfield with Dan Bliss and Hero Hirsch. You get to spend a whole day learning about cheese, tasting cheese, learning how to describe the cheese that you're tasting, and also from start to finish of cheese making as well. So it's really a really good course to take part in, and I would definitely urge everyone to sign up for it once it's over and done with. But my sort of love of cheese and working with Paxton Whitfield, going for an Academy of Cheese course with Paxton Whitfield, and then that allowed me then to have an introduction into the cheese world and go to different master classes set up by Academy of Cheese, and also, like I said earlier on, be a Christmas temp at Paxton Whitfield. So we're at 39 degrees, so we've got one more degree to go. And I've got a question. Why wouldn't the curds set after adding rennet? They would eventually. So when you've gone off milk in the fridge and it does set ever so slightly. So sheep's milk and goat's milk they require less rennet than cow's milk, and it's because their milk is higher in protein, and I think it's the casein protein. Don't quote me on that. But certain cheeses need certain amounts of rennet. So my lactic curd cheeses only contain 1 ml of rennet, and that's the same quantity of milk, and it will be roughly the same yield as well. Whereas with this cheese, I've added 3 ml of rennet. So we are nearly there, and we're there. Alright, let's just turn that off. So, I'm just going to let the curd settle and sink to the bottom. Let's check the temperature of this one. Right, let me just wash my hands, I'll be back. So home cheese making. Over the last couple of years, I've collected all of my equipment. So I use an induction pad. We have gas at home. Gas would be too vicious for the milk. I want something that I can control. So I use an induction pad. I have an induction stainless steel pan, and these are 15-litre pans, it leaves me oodles of room for Paul Thomas's recipes. So equipment, in the market you can get any shape, size of cheese mould. Today I'm using this variety, which is actually for feta cheese. I tend to use it for my feta, which I made a couple of days ago, and halloumi as well. So you fill those up, but to be honest with you, most of the stuff is household. I have normal jugs. These trays I bought from a cash and carry, and they're for displaying meat at a butcher's. The more specialist stuff, would be cheese matting, which looks like this, and that's for use when you're draining and drying your cheese. You know, inexpensive, really, really cheap. You know, you can kind of make this as expensive or as cheap as you want to. You know, there's a lot of cheesemakers out there that just use household colanders. I think there's a story of the Berkswell makers that use, I think the rumour was they were using IKEA colanders, but in fact that's not true. I think they had them shipped in. But it's just bits and pieces like a decent long palette knife, spoons, and then when you get, and sieves as well for fishing the curds out. But when you get a little bit more serious, you might want to consider a decent thermometer, which I have, and also a pH meter. I'm not recording pHs with halloumi cheese at the moment, but I do use it for anything that I age, and it's important. So a question we've got: if you make a mistake in your process, can you salvage the batch? I've had some bits and pieces where I've made mistakes in the past with the curds basically they became too acidic in pH, and then I've had it's become a happy mistake in the end, and that's been absolutely lovely. So I've got one more question. What's the difference between animal and vegetarian rennet? So animal rennet is from the fourth stomach of a calf, and vegetarian rennet is a sort of microbial enzyme that's found in mould. You can also get cardoon thistles that make a good rennet, and you've got certain cheeses that gives a certain characteristic, a bitter note to cheese. So the difference between animal rennet and vegetarian rennet: the animal rennet gives a better set, and it's more traditional. The French love it, the French mostly use it, and most of our traditional artisan cheeses are made with animal rennet. But vegetarian, fully appreciate, you know, it's a wider market and you want many people to eat your cheese as possible. So, okay, we're running out of time, so let's do this real quick. So I'm going to start scooping the curds. So I'm just going to show you real quick what it looks like now. So we've gone from a whole pan of milk jelly, basically, to lovely little pieces. Let's see if I can. Maybe not actually. But no, they'll be quite hard. Not massively hard. Oh, I've got some help. So yeah. So they're squishy, but they're not soft anymore. They've got a little bit of give to them. Right, okay. Then we're going to start. Put them into moulds. I'll show you one, and then what we'll do is we'll fish the curds out of the way. So what you want to do is fill up the mould as much as possible, and at the moment, because the milk is so good, I'm getting more cheese for my money. And then what we would do, push it down, have a little bit more. There we go. And then I basically just leave them and I stack them up. And under its own weight it will push it down, and then eventually it will be like this. So it's quite a firm block now. It's got a little bit of give to it. But that was basically earlier on today, so I'm going to move these out of the way and show you the poaching pan. So halloumi, I would say, a lot of people start with, there's a lot of kits out on the market, and a lot of people gravitate towards using a mozzarella kit. But I would say that halloumi is a really, really nice cheese to start with, and it's because of the what's the word? It's the flexibility and also the safety net that you get given because you're heating the curds at such a high temperature. So I have a pan here with the whey and the curds from earlier on, and they've been sat in 90 degrees, and they've just been poaching away. So with mozzarella and halloumi making, when you heat the whey up, you have the protein rise to the surface. So, and in halloumi it's called anari, and with mozzarella it's called ricotta. So if they were making anari, this is just literally the protein that's risen from the top earlier on. If we wanted to make anari or we wanted to make ricotta, then we would add more milk, and that would bring up the protein levels, and that would give you another cheese. So, okay, right, I'm going to pull these out, and then I'm going to quickly show you how to flavour your halloumi. Mad dashing. Right, so this is a quick process because you want the cheese to be still warm when you put it out of the way. It is hot, folks. If you haven't got asbestos hands like I have, because of years of being in the kitchen, I'd recommend using kitchen marigolds. So I've got a selection of different toppings, and this is the beauty about making your own halloumi, is that you can use different toppings. So salt, always important. Traditionally it's mint, but today I've got chili flakes, I've got sumac, I've got onion flakes with sage, and then I've got fennel seeds that have been toasted, blitzed up, and then mixed with baharat. I would say traditionally Cypriot halloumi is brined, and that's why it's got such a long shelf life. Whereas my halloumi, I season it with salt, I flavour it, and then I vat pack it, and it's got a shelf life of around about 2 weeks. I have had it a little bit longer because I've really sort of vat packed it tight. But this is the beauty, you know, the making your own cheese is that you can basically choose your own flavours, and that's, for me, is really, really important. So, right, let's go for it. So, I'm going to salt it, I'm going to squish it, and I'm going to salt it some more. Because cheese loves salt, it is important for flavouring. And let's go traditional, let's go mint. And then, traditionally, they would fold it over. Ooh, it's hot. Just a little bit there. There we go. Now let's do that one. And I know that we're running out of time, so what I might do is I will get a pan on and I will quickly show you the last little stage, and that is frying the cheese off. But I hope everyone sort of tunes in to all the bits and pieces that are happening later on this evening, and also for the rest of the weekend as well, because you've got a great lineup of cheese experts and cheesemongers and farm visits and quizzes. And I think after this slot you've got Poppy at Quick's Cheese doing a tasting, and I love Quick's Farm and Mary Quick as well, a bit of a hero of mine. And then we've also got Paxton Whitfield at 8 PM. And I did their quiz last night, and it is particularly good, and with the chance of winning some cheese. Right, that's not cutting very well. Let's see if this works. This is the golden moment, people. I'm going to be most upset if this does not set. I'm going to put one from last week as well, just to be on the safe side. Not that I don't have any faith in myself. Come on. Okay. But big thank you to Academy of Cheese, Patrick, and also Specialist Cheesemakers. I'm hoping to work with you guys very, very soon. And also Guild of Fine Food as well. Let's see. Oh, it's not quite warm. And also, if you're interested in homemaking cheese and you want to follow, I mostly put all of my cheese posts on my Instagram post, which is at Sarah with an H, Queen of Cheese. So if you want to follow my little adventures in the cheese world and into cheese making as well. But like I said earlier on, I will put as much information as I possibly can on this video a bit later, so you can always refer back to it. Let me get in there. Oh, it's quite soft. So there we go, a 4-hour process crammed into 30 minutes, and I hope you've enjoyed. If you've got any more questions, then find me on Instagram. I'm happy to help with what I can. But support British cheese, eat more cheese. Cheese certainly isn't just for Christmas. And barbecue season coming up. Hopefully you'll be buying some more British halloumi and even trying to make it yourself. So thanks ever so much, folks. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon and the rest of your bank holiday weekend. See you later.